All right, guys, welcome back to Crossman Productions. Man, I am so excited about today's show. So, you know, right now is like the perfect time for Christian films. There are so many new films that are coming out that I'm just excited to see. Our friend Cameron Arnett is doing The Forge. Kind of talked about that. For all of you guys who are big fans of The War Room, we talked to TC Starlings about that a little bit. But I'm looking forward to The Forge. That's going to be a great movie. Then you got Cuba Gooding Jr. now is in a movie called The Firing Squad. That's going to be a huge movie. And then Disciples in the Moonlight. This movie right here, I think it's probably one of the most anticipated movies that I've been waiting to see. And it's been a while since I've waited, have been that excited about seeing the movie. I think the last one that we covered was Sound of Freedom, which was a blast to be able to bring Cameron in and do the movie review on that one. But that was such a powerful movie. And I feel like Disciples in the Moonlight is going to be just as powerful. So I'm really looking forward to that. So today I have a special guest. I have the producer of Disciples in the Moonlight. She's an actress. She's a stunt woman, and she's also the producer of course, our favorite show, Vindication. So I am going to bring on Sharon Oliphant.
Oh, God.
I'm so excited about having you on the show today.
That was a heck of an introduction. Thank you, Cross. I'm so happy to be here.
So, obviously we're big fans of Vindication, and you're, a producer of that. We've had, pretty much everybody at the cast has been on the show. And then I didn't tell you at the beginning, but I kept telling Jared, give me like a walk-on role. Give me, it's like you on the show. So he called me up and he's like, hey, I got a small little part. So season 4, episode 6, I'll be in. So,
oh my word. That's perfect. Well deserved. Well, I'm thankful that you stuck with it. He's a busy guy, and I know
right.
He really tries for as many people as he can. So that's so special.
Right. Jared's so cool. And I brought my daughter, and she does all my camera work and lighting. And so while I was acting, he had her in front of the camera and showing her how to block shots. And
See, he takes his time with people, and everyone that works with him can see, he really cares about people.
Right.
That's so special.
So we love Jared here. So, and I'm always bothering him, calling him about different things, and talk about the show. But we definitely love him. But I am so excited about this movie, Disciples in the Moonlight. Now, I don't want to jump the gun on this because this is your journey.
Dude, go for it.
But honestly, the last movie that I think I was so excited about seeing was Sound of Freedom.
Oh, rightly so.
And that obviously that movie was a very powerful movie. Whenever it was about last week, I think it was, Buddy Campbell.
Yes.
Buddy he sends me a text. And he's like, "Hey, listen, there's a movie coming out called Disciples in the Moonlight," and I'm pretty sure Todd had mentioned it whenever on his interview. But anyway, so he sent me the trailer for it. I'm like, it's gonna be a great movie.
Buddy, he's our unsung. He is a champion. That man. He's always promoting other people. That's so awesome.
So yeah, we love Buddy too. I mean, I met Buddy long before I knew anything about Vindication. I met him and Olivia probably I
Disney.
I met them maybe about a year and a half ago. They have a whole community out in Arkansas that they work with. So they were doing a film, and we had all the cast members from the film. Olivia's like, I'm going to bring all these people on. And I think that we had, I want to say, maybe 9 or 10 people on that.
What?
Yeah.
in one
Yeah.
interval.
So yeah, we had like the producer, we had all the actors, everybody. So Olivia is like, got all those people on. That's where I met Buddy. But yeah, so we've been friends with them for a while, and then I was watching season 2 towards the end when they had Hodge.
Right.
I'm watching. Watching Vindication. And I'm like, is that Buddy? Like, I had no idea that Buddy and Olivia was going to be on the show.
Oh, I have to go on a tangent about that. The day I met Buddy in person is the day. Have you seen season 3 of Vindication? No spoilers.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay. The day I met Buddy is the day he's drugging in his tidy whities.
Oh. Oh, wow.
And he was just phenomenal. He really is a great actor.
Right.
And we just didn't get a lot of time to really be introduced and chat. So we worked through the day, and he was on the floor getting kicked. He was sweaty. But man, he would get up and just be so full of just gratitude and joy. He was so happy to be there. And then he actually came back for with Olivia, actually, for her shots, just to help behind the scenes and just support her and all of us. Such a sweet guy. And I just wanted to give that like a little shout out to him, because he does bring people together. And that just shows, that's a testimony to him and his, he's got such a phenomenal ethic.
Right. Yeah. I see him on there. I see him on. I'm like, I get on the phone. Hey, buddy, did I just see you on Vindication? He's like, oh yeah, I just did that. That show.
And then he comes out for Disciples in the middle.
He was telling me. So, anyways, I'm excited to see that. So.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad. You should be. It is I've seen it now 4 times. It is so good. It's so good.
Wow. And then we have Brett coming on Monday. Oh. So you got here first. So right. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Now, I kind of tell everybody, that you wear so many hats. Mm-hmm. You're a producer, you're an actress, and you're a stunt woman. So
yes. I mean, I grew up one of 9 children. We didn't have TV, which is very ironic. We would watch old black and white movies at the library occasionally, but then for 1 week out of the year, Thanksgiving week, we would rent a TV.
Oh, wow.
And I have 5 brothers and 3 sisters, and we would all get to pick out our movies. And I just would always I loved action and adventure, King Kong and Tarzan and all those, so that was it was such a special thing for me to watch movies. And then, years roll on, and I was also homeschooled. So I was always in my head, out in the woods, outside, on adventures. And then when I was 12, my youth leader, Miss Ginger, I'll never forget it. We finished Wednesday night youth group, and she took a load of us to see The Lord of the Rings. And the Fellowship of the Ring. And my whole worldview perspective, you could just light bulbs going off. I was so incredibly just swept up in that world. And I had to know how they did it.
Right.
And for years, I was very much like, I started reading the books. I was not a reader. I'm just, I was super just had to be active. And so I was reading the books regularly, and then, took 3 years for the films to come out. So by that time I was 14. And the behind the scenes of my life, there was a lot of things going on, spiritually, mentally. My parents actually divorced when I was 13, and which was very strange because they're both believers. And I really kind of escaped in film. Right. And it was very much, because I had a relationship with the Lord, but it wasn't like as much of it was just like answering the questions, knowing the answers. Right. I believed the Lord was, had his hand on my life, but for some reason, and he was using film. I can see that now, to minister to me. So I just was excited about film since a very young age. Just a little girl, just excited about movies, and I just had to be part of it. So fast forward 6 years, I married my husband Elijah. I married at 20 and moved away, and he actually encouraged me. Was the first person to ever say, "Well, why don't you just try and get involved?" And because it was such I'm from the middle of nowhere, like it just doesn't happen. And he's like, "Well, why don't you, so I moved to South Florida, and he encouraged me to just try and participate and be part of it. Right. And so I did. I went down and auditioned, and I started getting connected in theater and acting. And I love the physicality of theater. I love the commitment. I love that you had to perform the whole thing, and you get a reaction immediately. But then I just I could feel like I needed to do more. I felt like, auditioning, I got a lot of anxiety auditioning, and I just I worked through it, and I, took classes and kept trying and pursuing and trying to, praying through that. And in 2001, I found out that they were making the Hobbit movies in New Zealand. Right. So of course, full circle moment for me. I just had to be at least try to get into that. Right. And so I got a visa. My husband, he's like, "We've only been married a year. Go ahead and, we don't have kids. We don't have a mortgage. Right. Just go." And I was, of course, convicted about leaving and all that, but I got a one-way ticket to New Zealand. Wow. Went over, started training, started getting into because they have a lot of American projects being made, and they want our accent. So I did. I was doing commercials and TV, and I started training there for stunts. And that is really where my stunt, the passion for stunts really ignited there, because I started off in just a really healthy place. The training there with Andrew Stalin, he's done he worked on Lord of the Rings, Chronicles of Narnia, right. All these big projects. And he was just so attentive and so humble. And he really believed in me from the beginning. He was just like, "Yeah, absolutely. You can, it's regardless if you want to be a stunt woman or not, it's such a great platform. If you're trained in the physicality," because I was never a dancer. Right. I know actors, they're like, "Oh, this actress is so great because she was a dancer." I'm like, "Well, I'm not a dancer, right. But I can punch and I can kick and I can weaponry and swords." This was always super exciting for me. Wow. So just along that, I just kept learning, and I came back from New Zealand on fire for a career in film, but I was also really, I was upset. I left because I was offered a role on a project that was very compromising to my beliefs and my integrity. And I couldn't, it was, and honestly, I think about it often when people ask me about that, that moment of because it could have changed my career. I mean, it was a big part in a big show. Wow. And I just had to leave. I had to leave the country. So I wouldn't even be tempted to say yes. Wow. And it was painful, but then I knew I had peace that God had me, and he knew, what my journey should be like. So, I was young. I was 21 years old, and came home, and then I found out the Hunger Games was going to be filming in North Carolina. So I'm like, there's again a great opportunity. So drove 6 hours to just put my headshot in a pile at a random mall. Wow. And I got a call to come out and do that. I was there for 15 days on the Hunger Games. That was super, to see a big set like that, and just to watch those moving parts. And I was reading the trilogy while I was on that set, and seeing the stars and how they behaved, seeing all the departments doing their thing on that level. Really, it was a really, really cool opportunity. And then, just came back and doing films. So we started a family, when I was 25, we had our first baby. And then I booked a feature when I was, she was tiny. She was 3 months old. I booked a feature. So I kind of started to see I can have a family and also honor God with my career and actually have a career.
Right.
So it's just been, as the years go on, I've got 3 little girls now, I've been married 15 years, and just tried to truly be obedient to God despite, life is, as, anyone can attest, life gets crazy, so many things. We had a house fire in Florida. We felt God really prompting, and I did particularly, to move and be ready to sacrifice.
Right.
And so we actually, in 2020, I felt an extreme push from the Lord to be ready and to get my house ready, that something was happening. And I, surrendered that. I was praying through it. I talked to Elijah and had an opportunity in Texas. Oh, wow. So we prayed about it, but it was like we already knew that God was opening that door. So I did, my husband's working full time. I did a bunch of maintenance, fixing up the house. We didn't realize we bought a fixer upper, but we fixed it up, got the equity out of that. It was a great time to sell a house, and we moved to Texas.
Wow.
And that's where I met Brett, Jared, Cinemammoth, the production company that I work with very regularly. They're in Texas, and just, it has been 2 years of just like God overflowing blessing and opportunity, and it's a lot of work. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that, but the work that I have been so anxiously praying for, it's like it's happening. It's we got films coming out. I mean, that's that's the dream.
Right.
It's really, so much along the way, but God has just been so good. I mean, really, it sounds cheesy, but Scripture is so clear, and when we really give it to Him, He can do more. I mean, this film in and of itself is more than I even knew to ask for. I just got back from Cannes in France to work with them over there and promoting at Pinnacle Peak, the production company, or the distribution company, working with them over there. So just, I mean, it's just a lot of ups and downs along the way, but here we are.
Cool. I wanted to ask you a question about this. So when you first decided you wanted to be, get into movies and films, you went to New Zealand and you became a stunt woman. Was that the goal, or is that kind of like, how did you end up being a stunt woman, in New Zealand?
So the agent, I'm going to give her a shout out to, oh man, of course, as soon as I say that, I'm like, well, shoot. Oh gosh. Anyway, my agent out in New Zealand at the time, this was 14 years ago.
Right.
She sent me a link to this training course.
Right.
And she was like, hey, while you're here, I really recommend that you take classes. And because I was she knew I wanted to get in the Hobbit, and she's like, it's a really physical production. And I even had said to her, I've always wanted to do like an action movies, just in general. So anyway, she sent me the link, and she said, Sarah Valentine, please forgive me. She is, and ironically, this is just a little fun tidbit. She is Todd Terry's voice actor, all the way from New Zealand. She was my agent.
Wow.
It's just such a cool thing. We've bonded over that as well. But so I went in and and like I said, I was homeschooled. I loved physical fitness, and I was really when I got my own car, I was like in the gym. I loved taking class, kickboxing, karate, just on my own, because it's super therapeutic for me.
Right.
And so I had already been doing that on my own, but then kind of learning, because stunts is so vastly different. Being on screen and looking natural is totally different than just taking like a self-defense class and expecting it to look really good on film.
Right.
That takes a lot of timing, pacing, trusting, the other individual, and knowing it is like a dance, but it is just such a different physicality. Right. So when I took those courses with Andrew, and it was like something in me felt like, okay, I did musical theater, and it was painful. I'm like trying to do the Grapevine, trying to do all these, and I just never clicked. And I had the choreographers were so gracious with me, but I'm just not a dancer.
Right.
I mean, I can freestyle like with some African, djembe, but I'm not no. I'm 5'10" and like a giraffe. So but for some reason with stunts, it's like it's just in me. I can just feel it, and you can move. And so then I really did it. And then it was like, I was taking my martial arts classes with that mentality. How can I use this and transpose this for the screen? Krav Maga is an incredible martial arts that looks amazing on screen. So then I started intentionally training with Krav Maga, which is Israeli. That's the Israeli martial arts that they teach their military. Beautiful. It's an incredible art. So trained extensively in that, and then totally wild. The film that I worked on as a postpartum new mother, I thought, am I ever going to be the same again?
Right.
I met Gabriel Alfonso was the director of Open My Eyes, which is a faith-based film. It went to all the Christian film festivals back in the day. Right. He vouched for me on this TV show that came to South Florida, and the lead villain had to know martial arts.
Oh, wow.
And he vouched for me, knowing, not even knowing if I could still do stunts. Right. And that really spoke to me. Gabriel has a special place in my heart forever. He recommended me wholeheartedly to them. He's like, you have to have her on your set. And so then I got super motivated, and I trained. They were sending me their choreography from New York. Weekly, they would send me scenes, and I was training like a mad woman.
Wow.
And it's called The Dream Factory. It's a 5-part episodic, and I got to do my own stunts. It was so then I got actual footage. I started building my stunt footage, and then getting other jobs based off of that. And here we are. So it is just training. If you tell a stunt person that you want to do stunts and they're going to just like, you've got to have that. You really do have to understand, because it's dangerous. It really is a dangerous thing, especially on low budget. Not that, Christian films are like, the budgets are improving. We're getting better and better opportunities. Right. But if you hire me, because we had some stunts in Triumph of the Heart in Poland, and they specifically, one of the reasons they hired me was because I could come on board on the days where we didn't have our coordinators and be like, this is how we can do this safely, and go through that with the actors. So for different reasons, I got that job, but man, what a blessing. So really just having that on a set where you can, and on Vindication, a couple episodes, there's some fun stunt stuff. So, you can just, hey, here's some support. This is how it will look from the camera angle. Because if you've never trained, how on earth are you going to know how to do that trick photography behind a camera? So supporting each other on that was really awesome. And then just being like, hey, you can be a mom and a Christian and still enjoy stunts and make it, weaponry and all that stuff. So, and then on Disciples, we needed guns, like a lot of guns, and we needed to show our actors how to use the guns.
Right.
So that was another really special, like, God, see how God does, he just turns around and it's like, I'm going to use this for my glory. And I didn't know as a young girl with 5 brothers that any of those skills would come in handy later, but I'm just like completely fearless with that. Thankfully, we were able to secure like prop guns, but they look so good. Right. Oh my Lord. You won't know that they're fake. I mean, that was a God thing too, in and of itself. So yeah, stunts. I want to encourage, I think there needs to be more faith-based action, like Christian action that is gritty, and that's kind of where my heart is. I'm always thinking, how can we do that with what we have to work with now? And it really is the people. We don't have $45 million to put into an episode of an action show, but we have people that really care about how it looks. So that's exciting to me.
when you talk about that, it kind of reminds me too of season 3 of Vindication. Towards the end, you have a little bit of action in there.
Yep.
So, and I'm the same way. I think you know, faith-based shows have come a long way. Like when I was growing up, they were TVN, they were cheesy. Not saying anything about TVN.
No, I know. Hey TVN, we want to help you.
but the movies were geared to a specific audience. So the story sometimes was I feel like it's kind of watered down. Now I think people are getting bolder about getting out the message. And one of the things I like, especially about Vindication, which really turned me on about it, is it doesn't go after a specific Christian audience.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I was drawn just as much as you.
Right.
Listen, I didn't know I was going to get hired on that show. I just was a fan.
Right. And then, and the more I watched it from the first episode, the pilot program where Jared and Todd thought it was just going to be one of those short films.
I know.
And then, it turns into this, phenomenal show. And I think that the writing from, starting from season 1 all the way to 3 has progressed so much.
Sure.
And the characters have progressed. The storyline has progressed.
Yeah, and that's again a testimony of the faith that they had to make the pilot with like dollars.
Right.
And then to say, all right, God, it was such a faith. Jared's testimony, I'm sure you've heard, is super powerful in that way of just saying, like, God, he had his corporate job but he knew God was calling him to make some sacrifices. And I can relate 100%. And it's scary. And then just to kind of see how God does, and it is never just like a hop and a skip and it's done. Jared has had to, his writing, he's making hard decisions. Right. And I was just so thankful to be there to support the show, because when you can bring in people to help you, it grows. Right. Bring in the right people prayerfully, and then you will see growth, and it just gets better. And I was just there for season 3, and I'm so incredibly proud to see that, and then what now is happening with season 4, and then hopefully beyond. We need it. We need more shows. Right. And there are not a lot. It's like Vindication and The Chosen right now.
Right. Which is both done in Texas, by the way.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly.
So, that's another thing too, is I think that, with shows like Vindication and The Chosen, bringing in, doing that stuff here in Texas, that's, obviously helping Texas, but I see a growth, of television shows coming out, and movies coming out. And now, like you said, before there wasn't a lot of money in them, being put into these shows. Right. But now I think the people are starting to see what can be with these films. Yeah. And and they're starting to back the films, which is why it's so important for my audience to go and see these films. Please, you guys have to go see these films. Put your butt in the seat and go see these films.
And another little tidbit that beyond that, like, go see them, but get your tickets in advance nowadays, because with Disciples we have our Fathom event happening. Right. And if you go, any chance that I have free time and I just can sit and send out the word, hey, 9 times out of 10, they're like, not only am I buying tickets for me, I'm buying tickets for my family. I'm telling my church, it is a powerful message in this film. And, the congregation, like, believers are going to be inspired and motivated. And, it opens up this conversation, because it isn't just a futuristic, it's happening.
Right.
So going and supporting that. And then too, when we get our tickets in advance, it tells the industry,
right,
like, people really want these movies. And then they extend our theatrical experience. So we've already been extended once. So we were, now we have the 17th through the 24th of July. And then as tickets are selling, their wheels are turning because, they want to sell tickets, and we do too. It's so important.
No, does the pre-sales play into how many theaters that you're able to release in?
So you'll see, for instance, actually, this is a great example for Todd and Brett were in Running the Bases,
right?
Which was, a more modest budgeted faith-based project that then again was like a faith, just purely faith to make that movie. And then, if I'm not mistaken, they were given their theatrical, and then they were not only extended, but they were given more theaters.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you get your major cities. Typically, you get your major cities in your deal, and then the more call for tickets, they extend. So, you could live in the middle of nowhere and just have to, like, the difference between having to drive to Atlanta or Dallas or Nashville, for somebody it's like a couple of hours, but if you can get it a little closer to home, so then it just kind of expands. And I think, I don't think it's as much of a hurdle now, because they see, oh wow, like, people are already, like, we're selling out in these big theaters, let's expand.
Right. So, this, like you said, this is a great opportunity for, people to bring church groups and your entire family to go see. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned this too, and I completely agree, is the message in Disciples, in the Moonlight, where, well, let's go, before I say, go ahead and tell them what Disciples in the Moonlight is, so we can.
Oh, yeah. So it is a look at a not so distant future in America. Well, really the world. I mean, the world's experiences, but in America, in where we are now, where the Bible is, our religious freedoms have been relinquished. And there's a Bible buyback program that has slowly encroached, where it's like the government's version of the Bible is now being met with security. If you take our version, you'll have a comfortable home and a comfortable life. And, it's that message. Well, then, as, you can feel the tension, and where the movie begins, all of that has happened. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's happening during the movie. And so you see people being martyred. I mean, and now it's not an option anymore. If you have a copy of the Holy Scriptures, if you have a King James version, I mean, any version that you have that is based off of the words, like the God's word, instead of man's, you will be imprisoned. And so I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's 7 heroes who, they are on a mission to get the word out to churches, these underground churches. So it's an adventure. There's a little bit of, drama. There's comedy. It is such a fun movie, and the acting is superb. And I'm pretty picky about acting. This is like, can't change the channel acting. It's really,
So, and that's what I was saying too, is this movie, the storyline is so relevant, because it's, for the movie, but if you really watch what's going on, it's not so far-fetched that this could actually happen.
It isn't. No, I did an interview last week, Claire McCallan with the Christian Network. She was talking about current articles and things that are happening that, I mean, we know Christians it's nothing new that Christians are being persecuted all over the world. It's just now, I think, what Josh Strakowski, the writer, and the collaboration team, Brett and Van Lawson, who hired us, what they wanted to show is if this happened again close to home, we know why. Why we came to America.
Right.
was for religious freedom. And now why would we think this wouldn't happen again? And it's happening.
Right.
And even in our churches, actually teaching from the Word of God, it's like this close to being a hate crime.
Right. Right.
So
that's what I was
we're not, this is not too distant if we're not really holding each other accountable to the standard. I mean, there is, you don't mess with the Word of God. You do not, just take liberties. And so it's a powerful, and there's going to be a lot. I mean, there's already backlash. People are not going to like it. The movie in and of itself, people are going to think is but we're making it because we're convicted and we believe in preserving the scripture. I mean, what else could, this is the only book we need to live our lives. It's not a, frou-frou self-help book. Like nowadays, it's like, if it doesn't cater to my needs, then we don't have time for that. But that's not what the Bible's for.
Exactly. So, and like we're talking, there's a lot of places that are trying to deem the Bible as hate speech.
Exactly.
That's here in America. That's not even overseas. That's literally here.
It's here. Yeah. Our pastor Sunday preached on the very subject. A case went to the Supreme Court where a boy wore a shirt. All it said was there's two genders.
Right.
And it made it all the way to the Supreme Court, and he lost because they deemed it hate speech. So they're toying with our freedom in general, but definitely anything that is biblically, there's a message of, biblical conviction, even on a t-shirt. It's like, I've seen some hateful t-shirts. That's not a hateful t-shirt.
Right.
And I've read some really hateful things. The Bible is not a hateful book. It's full of love, but it's also like there's a standard that God has set.
Right. And, and I think the other thing too is that we have a lot of people who, when you talk about the alternative Bible that they're trying to send out, we have a lot of people who call themselves Christians who are willing to compromise the Word of God.
Right.
And you see with some of the pastors that they would accept that book and would start preaching that book,
And they're flying flags.
Yeah.
They're like, you know what? If this is, it just baffles me.
Yeah.
Yep. No, the film is very timely. My prayer is that it does exceedingly well and we can continue. I mean, there are a lot of topics that films, we need to physically show, people are so visual, aren't we? And we just, I know media is the number one outlet.
Right.
We can do like newspapers and magazines and radio and all, it still has an impact, but people, like, everybody is streaming and going, and it's like, how else, what bigger platform can we get on to be able to say, like, this is just a warning. I mean, this is coming. And I do know there's talks to do more with Disciples in the Moonlight. So that's definitely on my prayer list, because you could keep going. I mean, there's stuff coming. We know from reading the Bible, there are things coming that are definitely, and I mean, you can see it if you step outside your door now, you're going to start to see the indications, scanning your wrist, and super convenient. They make it look super convenient, and it's like, well, that's straight up end times.
Right. Right. It specifically, talks about it in the Bible.
Right.
Which is why they try to silence it,
Yeah. Right. No, I'm super, like, I've always been very convicted about how God could use me in ministry. Because I did a lot of worked with children's ministries, and I love serving in church. And I, of course, compel believers to serve and serve and serve. I was always like, why do I feel so drawn to active, like going out? But I knew I wasn't a missionary because I'm like not. But I mean, if God, that's what God called me to do. But on my birthday 3 years ago, very clear indication. God said, your ministry is film.
Right.
And since then, like, honestly, literally saying, God, all right, I don't even care anymore to work in the secular industry. I'm not saying there isn't an enormous need for Christians to penetrate and be involved and, have a voice in all media. Right. But I do feel now, because I'm super convicted about the quality that we're putting out. And so that has to be for a reason. And I know Brett is the same, Josh, and we really, really, really feel called to set the bar and continually grow. And so what a ministry, and trying to like stay humble, because there's so many people that want to do this and it is really hard and it couldn't possibly be just me. It cannot be one person. It is the body of Christ making these movies.
Right. And the other thing too I was thinking about with this, the message of this film and why I think it's a lot, like Sound of Freedom, is that this is a type of film that gets people talking.
Oh, yes.
It's not just a movie you go see, like Sound of Freedom, you go see the movie, you're like, oh, that's a great movie, and then you go on about your day.
Thinking about
movies like this, you're like, you watch it, and then it calls you to do something.
Yes.
You have to respond.
Yes. No, 100%. You will, regardless of your background, your upbringing, you will think.
Right.
To me, it when I helped on the day we were filming, it was actually, I think it was the first day we started filming. It was towards the second half of the day, and we were filming the scenes with the Bible buyback, where there's lines of people trading in their Bibles, and it makes you hold on to your copy just a little more reverently. I'm like. And then there's a scene, because they've got these scanners, no spoilers, where they can digitally scan. And if you have any, digital copies, because I know a lot of people use their phones now for their Bible, which I'm not judging. There's just nothing that replaces a physical copy to me.
Right.
And my mom actually, a week before last, I had just got back from Cannes. I was super jet lagged and, emotional because I'm back to my family. She pulled out a 113-year-old Bible.
Wow.
That was her mother's.
Wow.
And I wept. I mean, it was like, my mom is so intentional with the word, and she always has been my whole life. I mean, on road trips, she would play cassettes of just scripture being read to us. And when you're a child, it's like, that's what I knew. And it was almost like this reverent, like, okay, we're taking a road trip and we're going to just listen to the word. But it kind of it wasn't just like, oh, my playlist that I play it was like, I don't know. There's just things that are, you take super sentimental, and I'm like, I just want to have reverence for what we have right now and understand there are people all over the world who's like, a copy of the Bible is, first of all, you can be executed. I mean, that is happening. And not to take it for granted. I'm literally going to take my copy to the movie when we go. We're going to take a big group, and just like, why would that be so bizarre? And to pull it out in an airport, why would it be so bizarre? And every so often you see it, but I just want to make it like just like a visually, it is a ministry to see somebody who it's like, I'm not just scrolling my phone. I want to draw closer to the Lord wherever I am, and just things like that. Like, it really does make you think, like, how intentional am I to appreciate the Word of God? And I mean, it's a lot of other things. That's kind of where I'm at, because I've seen it now. When you've seen a movie multiple times to completion, because I was there filming it, and it was in pieces, and now I'm like, okay, it means something to me a little differently every time I watch it. So, you may want to see it more than once. I don't know.
And when my grandmother passed away, she gave me her Bible,
Oh.
and so that's one of the things that, well, that's what she left me is her Bible,
Yeah.
and thinking about that, because I'm one of those guys that use the app at church,
Sure, I get it. I get it. No judgment. It's just like one day they're gonna scan it.
Yeah, I never thought about that because as soon as they start pulling it,
Right.
they're gonna. It's easy to replace the app,
Yeah. You'll see in the scene. You'll know
Right.
when you watch it. You'll think of me because of the scene. You'll be like, "Oh crap."
Well, I'm thinking that now. I'm like,
I'm sorry. Listen. It is super convenient, but I'm also like, have a copy somewhere.
right. Well, thinking about the Bible that she left me though, this is the Bible she took, all the time,
That's
and so she has it marked up, she's got it stuff highlighted, she's got notes in it,
that's so special. And also another thing, to a testament to her, it's like so many things are disposable now, and it's like, oh, I want a new version, or I want a different color, or not that those are bad. I'm convicted because I'm like, my Bible is, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'm like, I want to at least have, what else do I have to pass to someone? Like that really touched me, that your grandma gave, like that you got your grandma's Bible.
Right.
And to just hold on to things that, I think after our house burned, I just started to see what is important.
Right.
And a lot of things, pretty much everything burned, but my Bible did not burn.
Wow.
That's pretty, and I'm definitely a sentimental person, but I'm also like kind of a no-nonsense sentimental person. It's bizarre. Right. I'm a bizarre person.
So, but yeah, it's so you get Disciples in the Moonlight, which I'm telling you guys got to go see this film.
No.
Pack the theaters to go see this film, and you get some other things that you've worked on, other projects. Go ahead and let's talk about some of the other projects you got doing.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I do. There's several, but one of them that I'm just like, right after Disciples in the Moonlight, I was very spiritually just awakened and stirred. What an impact. And I just prayed, like, God, I really need to make films that have this kind of message that really invoke these conversations, and how can I, but it's also really emotionally involved. And so we did one with Cameron Arnett, The Great Turkeytown Miracle, which was a really lighthearted, really beautiful message film. And then I had about 3 or 4 months where we were in Texas flipping a house, and I was just like praying about what God had next, and if he wanted me to take a break, if I needed to, if you're a filmmaker and you aren't working, you're like, am I ever going to do this again? It's just the common, like, everybody does it. Even people that are like a household name, they're like, oh gosh, what's the next, So I had a few months, and I was just like, God, I just need you to remind me, because flipping houses, I don't feel like it's my calling. We're pretty good at it, but I'm like, your daughter needs to know that you want me to do this. And the next day, I got an email back from a dear friend of mine now, Jason Baumgartner. He is an incredible writer. He wrote Run Your Race, Samson, a bunch of big movies for like Netflix. And he had co-written a film called Matter of Time. Right. And they were in production, and he emailed me, and he was like, we do need somebody to do these little random things. Like, we need somebody on the film. And I'm like, well, I just did this film. I'm super confident. Like, I'm growing my producer skills. Right. I'd love to be there. And so on the day they hired me, sent me a contract, and I went and started producing this movie. And then I found out that Sean Astin was in it, which I'm just, he's in Lord of the Rings. So it's kind of like, it was one of those little like gifts from God.
Right.
And it was such a fun movie. It really, really was. And I think God was like, you need to you can't do intense movies all the time or you're going to be. So after that was over is when I started communicating with Cecilia Stevenson, is a producer friend of mine, about this Polish film and called Triumph of the Heart. And I knew something was special about it because of just the way people were talking about it. Right. And Anthony, the director, he also wrote it. He is such a talented guy. And I think he's like one of those anomaly talents that it's kind of like Jared, where they can see the whole vision and they can literally make it happen. They just need support. So it's like, you can write it, direct it, do production stuff, and just the way so many things. So he auditioned me, and as for acting, just as a German, the wife of an SS the main villain. Right. And it's based off a true story of Maximilian Kolbe and 9 prisoners who were sentenced to a starvation cell in Auschwitz. Wow. And I ended up negotiating with them a role and coming as a producer and helping with stunts. And then I ended up, it was incredible. What an experience. Honestly though, so refining, filming in another country, with another, language, so many things, the team there, and just the things that were overcome, the spiritual battles, and then to see behind that monitor every single day, the quality of this movie. And it's, again, a faith-based, very modest budget. It's just like, okay, we have enough to do it. Right. We have enough to do it well, so we're going to do it. And the conversation oftentimes is like, well, we're not going to do it until we have, $10 million or whatever. Right. And I'm not saying that I don't think that should be. We should have good budgets for these films. But it was like, Anthony knew there's a stepping stone and you have to prove yourself. I've taken so many jobs in the past, and it's like, I'm not paying any bills with this, but I am definitely learning. And with Triumph of the Heart, they took care of me. They let me give creative input. The acting alone, I'm just, British actors coming in, literally losing 80 pounds. Wow. To play these prisoners. I got at Rowan, one of the lead actors. I have never been on a set with somebody that was that invested. And I've worked with some incredible actors. This guy, he was eating a piece of broccoli every other hour, or a tiny, maybe a little, 80 calorie squeezy. The guy, you'll see. Wow. Anyway, it is such an incredible film. They shot it, got back to the United States, and within 2 months had raised all of their P&A money, just donations, and so now they can go out and get it distributed, and we can get it out to the world. It is such an incredibly beautiful film, and again, sacrifice and that testimony of faith and hope, and I crave movies like that, movies and shows where it's like, you're moving people. It is, we want to make people laugh, and laughter is so good for the soul. It's of the Lord. There's all number of scriptures about joy and laughter, but I feel called to move people. Right. So it's often dramatic.
And that's what film should do. Film should move people. It should, it should be more than just going to the theater and just being entertained. You know what I mean? Yeah. For about an hour. Now, some movies are, it's good to see that, but the best movies to me are the ones that come in and make you think when you walk out of the theater. Yes. Those are the best movies.
I want to care. And now I'm unbiased here I have not seen a film that I I don't want to bash movies, but I watched a sequel to a film the other day. The first one, I wasn't intrigued. I don't know why I would have been. I just couldn't even finish it.
Wow.
And that's like, I feel like everything's written with AI now. Yeah. There's no, even things that are, it's like, let's just throw a bunch of celebrities in and hope we make millions of dollars. And it's like, that is not what your audiences are paying for.
Right.
If that's the case, they can buy magazines.
Right.
Or watch YouTube videos on actors being, it's like, no. And actors crave substance too. So we're not doing anyone any favors. Like, you're putting an actor in a place where it's just like, I'll take it for a job and a paycheck, but we want to be moved. When I read Triumph of the Heart, I want to read a script and be moved by the script.
Right.
And even that is few and far between. I've read some really painful scripts. Like, if it's hard to read, it's hard to watch.
Right. No, I agree. When you pick up a script, the way to tell if it's a good script, if you can't put the script down.
Right.
If you're looking and you find yourself turning pages, then you got yourself a good script.
Yeah. And then it gets your whole crew excited. That's something else I could go on and on as a producer now. And I'm saying, like, it's really cool to be able to actually say I am a producer, because I've only been saying this since 2001, so I am a producer. I am making movies. God is so good. But I love the people. I love crews. I love to be on set and make sure everybody is taken care of. Right. And, I'm serving, and I'm an actress, and sometimes I don't get to act. And God has really refined that in me and kind of taught me, like, I'm asking you to serve, whether it be behind or in front of the camera, whatever capacity we are to serve. And that's been it was painful in the beginning to make that transition of, like, okay, I'm not always going to be acting, and that's okay. So now I'm super excited, like, get those crews together that are so talented and that they're excited about your content, because it will reflect in your product for sure. It's an exciting thing.
Cool. I'm going to ask you this question. So, what advice would you give the 20-year-old you?
Yeah, I'm not going to be like that cheesy, like, because I knew that I would sacrifice this to have a family.
Right.
I think that now, as a 35-year-old woman, I would just say to rest and have peace about the timing. Because, you in your 20s, you think, I'm never going to get those roles that I really want. And if I get to 30, I'm going to be, no one's going to hire me, or just all the mental dialogue that you're doing. And then you hear, you hear it and you see the castings start to change. But I will say the quality of things, I really noticed that when I stopped putting pressure on myself to achieve something by a certain time, or to impress a certain, because, you want people to be proud of you. All I ever wanted, was for my brothers to be proud that I made an action movie, or that, I wanted my, you want people to value you in your career. And film is so painful, because for years, people ask those questions, like, when are we going to see you on the big screen? Just so many things. And it's like a decade and a half of that, or not that long, but it's a long time to do the work and to stay persistent and passionate, and, getting the opportunities that you can, and giving them all you've got every time, because you just don't know. You do not know who's going to be, recommending you. Right. So yeah, I think really it is. And I think it's just to have peace and to rest in God's timing. And if he's really called you to do it, he will do a good work in you when he calls you to it. And being a mom has changed me so much mentally, and I'm a better actor and a better producer than I could have been
Right.
at 21 for sure.
Well, yeah, and to think about it too, you start off in theater, where you had an immediate response to,
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, to your acting, and now you're doing films, and now you got to wait for the crowd to come back and tell you, what the review.
Yeah, it's yeah, for sure. You got all those rehearsals,
Right.
so it's like a weekly thing, and then you got the show. But then it, that ends, and it's like,
Right.
okay, I grew as a person, but film is forever.
Right.
That is such a responsibility. It's super, like, that was enticing to me as well, because
Right.
I'm super grateful and appreciative of what I learned, at the Playhouse. And I was a very, very naive and just kind of starry-eyed. I just wanted to learn. And, theater is so fun. I have had to learn to tone myself down because theater is so loud, and,
Right.
especially musical theater.
Right.
So there was a bit of I took classes from a very harsh acting coach, thankfully.
Right.
And you're going to hear a lot more no's than you ever hear yeses. And that's okay. It's not, I should have been a certified, diagnosed people pleaser. And I've learned now that your people are going to be your people, and not everyone's going to be happy with, who you are. They're not gonna accept your joy or, your light, because it's painful. And
Right.
and I'm speaking from, a lot of secular sets that are pretty dark. And so being a light there, because that young girl, for a good 10 years, I was really only working on secular sets and still trying to be a light and, get the experience and stay motivated, because it's not always fun.
Right. So let me ask you, was there ever a time in your career that you on a set and you're like, I can't believe I'm here. I'm doing this.
Yes, lots of times. No, oh gosh, the very first time, man, gosh, that's a good question. No one's ever asked me that. I think those early morning sets, on really probably the Hunger Games.
Right.
New Zealand for sure, because what are the odds that I'm in New Zealand? I'm, on set, I'm making stuff. And so that was very, but I felt kind of like I was a fish out of, like, I didn't understand the world at all at that point. Like, I didn't know any terms for anybody that was there. I didn't know what a PA was. I didn't know what an AD was, nothing. So it was a very, like, all of it was just overwhelming.
Right.
But when you're on a set as a professional in your industry and the sun rises and you're sipping your coffee, I think, you know what? I think it was at Capernaum Studios.
Oh.
In Texas, at Capernaum Studios, on my film. So I co-produced a film called Shadow Creek. It was my first production job. You can see it out on my IMDb, with Corey Cannon, Ryan Johnson, and Nick Schroeder, three of my dearest friends. They're like brothers to me. And we shot our own movie. It was extremely difficult, but it was one of the highlights of my life.
Wow.
And that, I think it is, when the sun rose at Capernaum Studios and we were going to be shooting scenes for our movie.
Right.
I was like, I cannot believe that God has done this. And it was coming from a very raw place of some rejection and all those things where you get turned away and you just think, well, that's okay, and I'm gonna keep. And then to be received by such professional guys, I mean, Cinemammoth. So you'll see actually the logo for Cinemammoth, those guys, and that's Corey and Ryan's company. That's gonna be like the first 2 seconds of Disciples of the Moonlight, because Ryan was there. Corey was extremely invaluable in setting that up, and he was an actor on the movie. So yeah, that moment of like, I'm not a kid anymore, and I'm not I am an adult, and I'm making movies. And the sun is rising.
Right.
Really though, Cross, it could happen. It'll happen again.
Right.
I am such a sentimental person on sets.
Right.
I know how fortunate I am if I get to do it again.
Right.
Like, don't ever take that for granted, because there's so many people that like it's their dream and they just don't know how to do it. And it's just, if you can be there with the people that are all speaking that language and doing their dance, and you're sipping your coffee, and it's like, you know, you've done the work, because producing, it has to happen so far in advance to get a really well executed. So you've been working for weeks or months, and now you're there, and it's like, you know, it's such a good feeling. Oh, I just love making movies.
Wow, you're doing a great job at it. So I mean, you get great movie, you know, Disciples in the Moonlight. You know, working with Vindication, and then
yes, when you see Triumph of the Heart, I mean, circle back. I'd love if you get a chance to see it. Such talented people, you know, Matter of Time. I did one, the actor Richard Blake. I got a shout out to him. He hired me for stunts and acting only, so that was kind of cool, because I had been producing so often that he just wanted me to come be an actress and do stunts, and it was such a gift. The movie's out now, about a struggling actor who has to make a moral choice, and he's a strong believer. So that one just came out this summer. So yeah, there's a lot happening that's actually being released, because for a long time you work on films that's like, is this ever even going to be seen?
Right.
So yeah, no, thank you so much. I think it's a testimony to, you know, my mother really instilled work ethic in us, and you know, talent can only get you so far, and really just working really hard at your craft and being prepared and showing up and caring. People just, if you care nowadays, it's actually really rare. Wow. And sad. But, you know, I've worked on so many sets, and I'm like, do you even want to be here? Like, just be thankful. So I think really that's why you're seeing like this mass, like there's quite a few things coming out, and I really truly believe it's just because I wanted to be there, and I was just like, listen, I will work hard. I will make it happen with you, for you. Just let me give me a chance. So yeah. Cool.
So now somebody wants to follow you through your career. What's the best way for them to follow you?
Oh, I was anti-Instagram for a long time, but I do have an Instagram that I post a lot of updates. A lot of it too helps the algorithm for the films that I'm in. So post quite a bit on Instagram. My IMDb page is always being updated. That's the Internet Movie Database, imdb.com/Sharon Oliphant. You know, I have a Facebook and all those things as well. Hopefully it'll be gone one day. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, those are the two probably the most up to date and current would be my Instagram at it's just Sharon Oliphant _, and then my IMDb page, Sharon Oliphant. And I'm the only Sharon Oliphant, so you can't miss me.
Right. So I sent you a friend request on Facebook, but I don't know if you're using Facebook. So.
Oh, I'll get on there. I'm sorry.
I just sent it yesterday, so I was like,
well, we will be friends, and please keep up. Like I can recommend some amazing people for the show that I think would really help inspire.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. I love having new people on and getting to know them, and and hearing about their journeys, because the whole idea of this show is to inspire other people who are willing to do this. You know, back when the pandemic hit, that's the whole reason I started the show. The pandemic hit, everybody was just fighting over everything, color, everything. And I decided I wanted to do a show that would show that we have more in common as human beings than we do that separates us. So I bring people in to share their journeys, and we're on year 3 now. So
that's so awesome. No, I used to have dreams that people were asking me questions when I was little, and I don't understand. But now I'm like, God, if you have a message and you can get it out. And so I really value your time and that you care about that ministry, because we really need it. Prints, advertising, marketing for these projects and for people's, books. And I saw you interview all kinds of different people. So that's just such a powerful platform. And I'm really honored that you'd have me on your show.
Well, cool. I'm excited that you came on the show. I'm a big fan of Vindication. Buddy told me about this movie. I'm like, I got to get these guys on. About this
movie. Well, tell Brett I said hello. And he's so such a great conversationalist, such a great guy, really.
So he'll be on Monday.
Okay.
3:00. So
Monday at 3.
So make sure you guys tune into that. And then I'm talking to Cameron and BJ Arnett to try to get work something out with Cameron so he can come on and talk about The Forge.
Yes,
that's another great movie. I'm looking forward to.
Him too. Oh my goodness, yeah, they're great. I'm just honored to be in that in that circle of people, and we're making movies, trying to make a difference.
Well, cool. So what's next for you? What do you have any plans next, or?
I have. Yes, it's kind of like it's always a little. It's hard to talk about it until there's like executed, contracts but I will say, I feel very led to have projects in the pipeline that I 100% believe in, that, producer, executives and people that are like, okay, what do you have next? So we've got multiple projects that we're really passionate about of our own, but then I also am looking to support a dear friend. I don't want to share anything yet until I actually have the job. But for a show, another, faith-based show. So, I'm always prayerful about where God wants to send me. And I have friends that message me and they're like, hey, we would love to consider you when the time is right. So I'm just kind of in this season of just enjoying the fruits of the projects coming, the red carpets and the fun, I am a worker. So I'm like, all right, what am I working on? So I have a big, if you want to say a prayer, I have a big meeting on Friday that I'm just feel, when you just can feel that God is just laying things out for you and you don't have to do it.
Right.
That's something I've really learned. It's like with disciples, it was such a seamless interaction to get that job. You know how many people wanted to be there? I mean, I was very, very, from day one, I knew how fortunate I was to be there. And, what now I'm seeing the fruit of the people who weren't there that were motivated to make their own, because that's actually one of the conversations with this friend of mine. They didn't get to be there, but then it inspired their own project. And it's like, see what God can do. And so he motivates us because of those closed doors, doesn't he? And so I'm just knocking. I'm not banging. I'm not screaming. I'm not. I'm just genuinely at peace that he will provide it. And I oftentimes, even just the correspondence from you, I just was like, absolutely. When people ask and just not having any resentment or bitterness or any about the timing. It's like God is going to do amazing things. And I truly believe that he knows our hearts and he knows I love to act. And he put me through. He allowed this season of really intense serving. And then he gives me like the perfect role. So I believe that's coming. There's people writing things for me, which is like, that is the absolute biggest privilege I could think of, is for someone to intentionally have you in mind and develop something specifically for you. That is like super humbling. And when I get those messages, I'm like, oh my word. It's like, what a dream. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. What is the perfect role? What is the role that you're like, I would love to do this role?
You're going to laugh. I have I told you I'm bizarre. I really think that I am a character actor. And I kind of rebelled against that because I'm like, no, I'm supposed to, be whatever. But I'll tell you some of my most sought after. Of course, I wanted to play an elf. I wanted to be an elf so bad in Lord of the Rings. But I've been gifted the role of an alien, a German, a creature.
Wow.
Like anything that is, otherworldly kind of like where you're not just a everyday woman. I'm not like the girl next door type. I know that. And it was painful for a while because I would audition for all these parts and people would be like, oh, you remind me of Jennifer Garner, and she's so good. But I'm like the soldier. I've played a Marine, a detective, all of those. But I will say one of the most recent fun was my dear friend Mary Beth. Mm-hmm. She wrote her script specifically with me in mind, and it's a comedy, and I played an alien.
Wow.
It's in post-production right now, and it was so much fun. It's called The World Revolves Around Mika, and I play Mika, and I had more fun than should be allowed. It was such a blast. So, yeah, I mean, I will say, if I was to choose like right now one role that's being made that I would love to audition for, it would be Deborah. I do know that there are some groups that are working on developing, and I think that I could do it. Wow. So, yeah, Deborah, she's a warrior. I mean, it's got stunts, horses, archery, all of it. So, you know who you are. You know who you are because I've talked to you about it.
So then put her in it.
I'll grow my hair back out. I cut my hair to play to be vintage, so I'd have to, but I'm there 100%. All
right, we'll petition her, whoever it is. We'll petition her for the show to get you on that show.
Of course, now that I've said this, in 2 years from now, I'm gonna come back and be like crying. No, I'm just kidding. No, I truly am like, listen. We can dream and then God does something more. So
cool.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Cross. You're the best.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for taking your time out and being on the show. I'm really excited. I'm excited about the film and the other films that you got coming out. So
thank you.
I'm a big Sean Astin fan too. So
I
love him in like Encino Man. My daughter, I'll tell you about my daughter. She loves Sean Astin in Stranger Things.
Oh yeah, 51st Dates.
Right.
He's so good. He made me cry on set. He's so good. He's such an artist. And his daughter stars in Matter of Time, Allie Astin. She is so precious. Wow. She did an amazing job. And so he comes in and he plays like, it's so funny because in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf is Gandalf. But in Matter of Time, he plays like a Gandalf character. Right. I don't want to give anything away. But it was so special to be behind that monitor and to get him his coffees and organize his and just get to chat with him.
Right.
It was so incredibly just humbling and he called me Tinkerbell. That was my name.
Cool.
He is so precious. I adore Sean Astin.
Wow. All right, well you're welcome back anytime. Aww. Whenever the next film is available, I'll bring you back. We'll talk about it.
Aw, you're so sweet. All right, I would love that, Cross. Thank you so much for what you're doing and how you're inspiring people. And I'll be praying for you for energy and just all the questions. There's a lot to just chat with people, and you're so great at it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Aww.
So, guys, remember, Brett's gonna be on Monday. I have another interview tonight at 5. And then Cameron was coming up. So make sure you guys stay tuned. And remember, guys, you are uniquely designed with a purpose, and always keep moving forward.
Amen.
Peace.